Hello and welcome everyone. I'm David Widmar with Agricultural Economic Insights, and I'm joining you for the question of the week. And of course, always like to jump in here and share some cool and interesting things we've observed in the AEI Premium content, but also the Forecast Network tool that you'll have access to as part of that AEI Premium subscription. And every year for the last 3 years now, we've launched the yield contest, and it's been a lot of fun to have folks participate throughout the summer and fall. There are 16 questions, and there's a really nice cash grand prize at the end of that for the one who has the best skill, who is able to get the highest point accumulation across all of these questions. And it's also a helpful tool to look back and think about our expectations and how we can update those expectations over time. So let's dive in. Let's take a look at what's been going on in the yield forecast network. So first off, for this challenge, we have its own category. Log in, go to Ag Forecast Network, and we have two questions about corn and soybean yields in the May WASI report. Those are going to get resolved at the May WASI report. And then we have these long burn questions, and these are questions that are going to last several months. They're going to go all the way to the November WASI report. And you're going to be able to see your expectations adjust higher and lower over time. So let's jump in here. Let's take a look at the first one here. So what do you think is the probability of that November 24 WASI report estimating the 2024 yields for corn above 181 bushel per acre? There's a background article. My forecast here is at 60%. I didn't leave myself a note here, but the idea here is that this is getting us pretty close to trend normal yields and distribution of past outcomes. Now, I think this is really important because we can look back and we can see how my thoughts are when I go back to grade myself here in November. But I turn on the consensus for you. It's a little hard to see here, but as you can see, I am well above the consensus. A lot of folks are coming in with forecasts around 20%. So this might be the year to have a really low forecast. Of course, we've written about this string of below trend yields. It's been a while since we've had a trend normal or larger crop, but I think this is really starting to play in with people's expectations about yield possibilities here in 2024. Other question is soybean yields above 52 bushel per acre. Here's my forecast is sort of based off the historic distribution of past outcomes. You can read more about that in the yield guide. And then my forecast, the consensus is much, much higher. We have questions that are going to expire here with that May WASI report. Of course, after each question is expired, we score them and we issue new questions about the June WASI report. We also have a lot of great background content on this. We have the yield guides for corn and soybeans. We take a look at the trend line data. We take a look at how the departure from trend lines, and then we rank them from the biggest deviations to the biggest highest above the trend line and what those would look like in current yield conditions. And we did that also for soybeans. Also had an article recently, make sure you check it out, about what's going on with U.S. corn yields. As we talked about, this string of below trend yields or at trend line. This is data going back to the 60s. And one of the things we want to point out here, I think is really important, is uh, probably the most important part of the anomaly is not recent yields as much as the yields we saw 5 to 10 years ago. When we started to have these 170 bushel deviations, we had really strong above the trend line yields. You can see those right in here, really strong yields. And so this will set us up for about a 5-year run of really strong yields that was historically important to keep an eye on. And then the other thing to keep in mind is we've had a pretty stable run. If you guess about 173 or 174 bushels for a national corn yield, you wouldn't be off by more than 5 bushels by the end of the growing season. That's historically unusual. Again, it's this really big string of large crops and this long string of short small crops that have set this up for this pretty stable run here. We'll see what happens moving forward, but it's probably unlikely that we're going to see this continue. More like closer to 30 or 40 is the average, and sometimes more than 50 bushel of difference between the highest yields and the lowest yields in any 10-year stretch. Finally, of course, there's a great page about all of the rules and details associated with the Ag Forecast Network. So how do you get started? Well, make sure you go to aei.ag, start your AEI Premium trial. It's 14 days, risk-free, and start forecasting Update those forecasts. Keep in mind, 2 of those questions expire with the May WASDE report, and the other 2 will last well into the summer and fall, and you get to update your expectations and see how your forecast did as you moved throughout the growing season. That's all we have for this week. Let us know if you have any questions, but until then, keep forecasting and stay curious.